What's up, everybody? Hope you guys are doing well. And we're coming in with another video here because it has been made official. I think we all knew this was coming. Pretty obvious. This is where it was going. But it is now official concerning one Cooper Kupp of the LA Rams. He will be out this Sunday. Will not play. The hamstring injury will keep him out. Again, with all the things that had been said about Cooper Kupp, over the last week or so, I think it was pretty obvious that they weren't going to play him in this game. Like, if there's any team in this league that can afford to hold a player out, it's the Rams. They already know they're going to be bad. Deep down, I'm sorry, but deep down they already know they're not going to be any good this year, and they're embracing it to a certain extent. So they don't need to risk maybe their best player, at the very least their best player on offense, for something bigger long term. So there will be no Cooper Kupp this Sunday against the Seahawks. And also, McVay offered up the possibility that Cooper Kupp will go on IR, which would mean he would miss 4 games. And honestly, I kind of expect that to happen. Why mess with it, you know? Cooper Kupp, I don't know if he'll ever get back to where he was in 2021, but he's a great player. Why would you mess with it in a season where you know you're not going to be that good? So I'm still kind of expecting that to happen. Now, Cooper Kupp, understand that he may not be quite the player that he indicated he was in 2021. 2021 was maybe the best season any wide receiver has ever had. If you combine regular season and playoffs, his production, absolutely out of this world. But one thing that I do want to highlight here is that last season, when things went badly, when Stafford wasn't the same, and then Stafford got hurt, and the offense was terrible, Cooper Kupp still produced. Like, this is not a one-hit wonder situation with Cooper Kupp at all. Last year, he was averaging 8.3 catches per game, down only a little bit from the 8.5 he had in 2021. And yeah, his yardage was down. It was down from 114 to 90, but it was still really good. And remember, he got hurt in one of those games. That number may have been higher if he actually got to finish that game instead of getting hurt. So in 9 games, he still gave you 75 catches and 812 yards. This is still a really good player. This is still one of the better receivers in the league. And the Rams are much worse for not having him, especially with the nature of Matt Stafford wanting to throw him the ball as much as he possibly can. So do not downplay the impact of this injury, and do not think for one second that this isn't a big deal for a Rams team that is already incredibly top heavy with their roster. So definitely a big deal. I don't think Seahawks fans were seriously concerned about the possibility of losing this game even with Cooper Kupp, but now there's even less to be concerned about without him. Now their top receiver, maybe it's Van Jefferson. You got a little bit of Tutu Atwell, a little bit of Ben Skronek, who's more of a fullback anyway at this point. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of Tyler Higbee. You're going to have to. But I think that it is relatively safe to say at this point that the best thing about that Rams team has now been neutered. That Stafford to Kupp connection, I think, at this point is the best thing about that Rams team. So the easy game just got even easier, and this could end up... I mean, if the Rams do put Cooper Kupp on IR and then they start 0-4, are they even going to really rush him back at that point? They're acting like the injury could be pretty serious. So don't be surprised if Cooper Kupp ends up missing a good chunk of this season. Again, they know they're not going to be good. Deep down, they all know they're not going to be good. Cooper Kupp's only 30 years old. He's got some good years left in him. Granted, this hamstring injury is not a good sign for his long-term prospects, but I think you got to, at the very least, think about the long term with this guy at this point, because there's definitely a universe where the Rams get back on top at some point in the next couple years. They're run fairly well. They have a pretty good aggressive front office that knows when to go for it. And if they play their cards right, anything is possible. We also got some other injury updates from the Rams. Nothing nearly as big as Cooper Kupp, of course, but they've already ruled out a couple players. Stetson Bennett being one of them, shoulder injury, ruled out for the game. I can't imagine it mattering that much. I don't even know if he was their first guy up after Stafford, but I guess there's definitely a scenario where Bennett could have gotten out there. It's just very unlikely. So Stetson Bennett out. Also, tight end Hunter Long, acquired in the Jalen Ramsey trade, has been ruled out. Again, he wasn't above Higbee on the depth chart, but I think he was going to play some kind of role in that offense this year. So losing him is not nothing. Like Stetson Bennett, losing him is kind of nothing. Hunter Long, I don't necessarily believe is nothing. We'll get more injury updates on the Rams probably later today, and as the week goes on, we'll probably learn more. But that's the big stuff. That's the big one. The Cooper Kupp injury is the big one. And with that injury being what it is, I don't think we need to put Witherspoon in this game. Witherspoon against Kupp would maybe have been the matchup. Maybe not because Witherspoon missed so much of the offseason, but big picture-wise, I think you bring in a guy like Witherspoon to stop a guy like a Cooper Kupp. So I definitely think we can hold him out now. So that's about it for this Rams stuff. Real quick, though, I don't want to make a separate video about this, so I'll just go ahead and throw this in here as well. Nick Bosa did sign his extension earlier today. 5 years, $170 million. So he ended up taking $34 million per year, which I think is a little bit down from what I expected. I expected something like 35. He ended up taking the 34. Still a significant bump up from the highest paid defensive player previously, which was Aaron Donald. He's a little below 32. So Nick Bosa, he's going to be here for a while, guys. Sad to say it, but he's going to be a Niner for quite some time, and he's going to be a guy that we have to deal with going forward. So the Niners get the deal done just in time for him to maybe play week 1. I don't know if he will, but he'll be ready to go very quickly here, and he's going to be a guy we have to deal with for a vast majority of the season. So I know some people were hoping that there was going to be something happening here. They were either going to have him sit out or maybe he was going to get traded, but I firmly suspected that the Niners were eventually going to just make it happen. They were going to force it through because they need him, and their core is getting older. Like Trent Williams is getting up there. Christian McCaffrey has a lot of miles on him. They can't expect these guys to be good much longer. If they're going to try to win a Super Bowl, they need to go for it now, and they're not winning a Super Bowl without Bosa. With him, they got a shot. So that situation has been resolved. Division rival gets a lot stronger with that, although some people have pointed out with that massive monetary investment they've now made into Bosa, there's not really much money left. There's not a lot they can do. There's really not a lot they can wiggle around in order to create cap space. Like, are they going to be able to keep Brandon Ayuk now? Maybe not. Brandon Ayuk, he might be a cost casualty. He might be a monetary casualty now. If they get a quarterback, let's say Brock Purdy ends up being really good, and I don't think he will be, but let's say Brock Purdy ends up being great, or Sam Darnold ends up being great, they're not going to be able to afford to keep those guys now in all likelihood, or they're going to have to take on a lot of dead money and release a lot of really good players in order to make that happen. So, yeah, Bosa is going to be tough to deal with for these next 5 years. Probably, actually, I think it would be probably a little bit more than that even, because I think he'll get a third contract, but it does mean that this Niners team is pretty much capped out with everybody they've given money to. Bosa on top of Armstead, Werner, Kittle, Trent Williams, McCaffrey, Debo. It's gotten to the point where they basically reached maximum saturation. All right, so that's some NFC West related news, but the big one related to us right now, Cooper Kupp is out against the Seahawks this week. See you guys later.